Good morning. Certainly like to wish everyone, all the moms out there anyway, a happy Mother's Day and happy Grandmother's Day and Great Grandmother's Day. And if we have any great grandmothers, happy Mother's Day to you as well. There was a mom walking somewhere outside with her 4-year-old daughter. And all of a sudden, the daughter picked up something from the ground and started to put it in her mouth. The mother took the item away immediately from her and asked her not to do that. The daughter quickly replied, "Why, Mom?" And the mom says, "Because it's been lying outside and you don't know where it's been. It's dirty and it probably has germs." At this point, the daughter looked up at her mom with total admiration and said, "Wow, how do you know all of that stuff?" Without a second thought, the mother said, "All moms know this stuff. It's on the mommy test. You have to know it or they don't let you become a mommy." They walked along in silence for the next few moments, and as the daughter was pondering this newfound information, and then the daughter looked up at her mom and said, "Oh, I get it. So if you don't pass the test, you have to be the daddy." And so the mother smiled and replied, "Exactly." Did you hear about the little boy who had trouble remembering his memory verse at Pew Packers? Well, his mother was there in the front row trying to prompt him, and she gestured and formed the words slightly with using her mouth, but it didn't help. The son still had this blank stare. He could not remember that verse for anything. And so finally she leaned forward and whispered in his ear, "I am the light of the world." So the child got back up on stage, and with great feeling and a real clear voice, he said, "My mom is the light of the world." One day a little girl was sitting and watching her mother do some things over in the home, and the daughter suddenly notices that her mom had several strands of white hair sticking out in contrast from her brunette or brown hair. "Why are some of your hairs white, Mom?" asks the daughter. The mom replies, "Well, every time you do something wrong and make me cry or unhappy, one of my hairs turn white." The little girl thinks about this for a while and then said, "So how come all of Grandma's hairs are white?" And finally, as we get started this morning, a small boy was sent to his bed at nighttime, way past bedtime, by his mom. And 5 minutes later, you hear, "Mom." Mom says, "What?" The little boy says, "I'm thirsty. Can you bring me a glass of water?" "No," the mom says, "you had your chance. Lights are out. Go to bed." 5 minutes later, "Mom." Mom says, "What?" The boy says, "I'm thirsty. Can I have a glass of water?" Mom says, "I told you no, and if you ask again, you're going to get a spanking." 5 minutes later goes by. "Mom." "What?" the mom says. The little boy says, "When you come to spank me, can you bring a glass of water with you?" But it's interesting to think about a child's perspective of their mother throughout the lifespan. At 4 years of age, Braden really liked that one. All right. At 4 years of age, the idea is my mommy can do anything. At 8 years of age, my mom knows a lot, a whole lot. At age 12, my mother doesn't really know quite everything. Age 14, naturally, Mom doesn't know that either. Age 16, Mom, she's hopelessly old-fashioned. At 18, that older woman now, she's way out of date. At age 25, well, she might actually know a little bit. At age 35, before we decide, let's see what Mom thinks about that. At age 45, it's a wonder what Mom would have thought about it. And at age 65, the child is wishing that he or she could simply talk to his or her mom. But the Bible refers to every aspect of motherhood, from conception in Genesis 4, verse 1 and Luke 1:24, to pregnancy, 2 Samuel 11, verse 5, Luke chapter 1, verse 24, to the pain of childbirth, Genesis 3, verse 16, John 16:21, and even nursing a small child, 1 Samuel 1, and also Matthew 24, verse 19. Throughout scriptures, moms are praised for the compassion that they have on their children. Isaiah chapter 49, verse 15. The comfort that they provide to their children. Over there in Isaiah 66, verse 13. And also sorrow that they have for their children. Jeremiah 31, verse number 15. But this morning, as we turn our attention to Proverbs 31, our lesson is titled, A Blessed Mother. And we are going to take a look at this woman as portrayed in Proverbs 31. As we look at this account, verses 10 through 31, we won't read every verse, but we're going to make some interesting observations about this Proverbs 31 woman and how she certainly was blessed. But as we make these comments and notice this scripture up front, just realize that no one is perfect. No one is absolutely always doing exactly what they need to do. Everyone makes mistakes, even our moms. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of reminding and encouragement to know that we're all human. And although we strive to be as this Proverbs 31 woman is, we all know that there is no one who is perfect. But Proverbs 31, I'd like to make three observations with you about this woman. Number one, she is a valuable wife. Now, before we read verses 10 through 12, don't misunderstand the text and say that in order to be virtuous or valuable, I have to be married. Well, over in the New Testament in 1 Corinthians 7, we know that the Apostle Paul says, and to some extent, it's better to be single than it is to be married. However, in Proverbs 31, we learn that the Proverbs 31 woman, a blessed mother, is one who is a valuable wife. I'm in verse 10 of Proverbs 31. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. What was it that made this Proverbs 31 woman such a valuable wife? Well, it's the respect and the working together that she provides to her husband. You get a picture here in Proverbs 31 that this valuable wife understands that she is on the same team as her husband. That they are not bitter enemies, that they're not on different sides of the court or opposite sides of the field, that they are working together, having common goals, having common interests, and having those items in place in which they realize that, hey, we are husband and wife, we are on the same team, and we are not working against each other, but rather we're working with each other and together. It's going to take Christian parents, moms and dads, working together to build a Christian home. And as you think about this idea of being a valuable wife, it's the idea as expressed over in Ephesians 5. As your husband is loving you as Christ loved the church, it's the opportunity to respect and to be in one accord, to be unified, and to work together to demonstrate and to depict that Christ-church relationship. This Proverbs 31 woman, she was blessed because, first of all, she was a valuable wife. Secondly, as we notice the text this morning, not only is she a valuable wife, but she is a vigorous worker as well. As husband and wife and mom and dad are working together, building dreams and making goals and providing for the family, it's the idea that you can't do that and be lazy. You have to have energy. You have to have determination. And you have to have an attitude in which you are making things happen. And moms certainly know that they can lead in that process. But notice that, first of all, as we're thinking about the mom being a vigorous worker, she is working hard at home. Look in verse number 15 of Proverbs 31. She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. Also in verse number 27, she watches over the way of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. This vigorous worker is working hard at home. It's the case where we understand it's the most demanding job in the world, that is being a mom. Some have described a mom as playing the role of nurse, as teacher, child psychologist, dietitian, housekeeper, and cook. And it's been estimated that if you pay moms what they are worth for all that they do, their annual salary would be well over 6 digits each and every year. But notice in the text that not only is she working hard at home, but as a vigorous worker, she is working hard on the job as well. Look in verse 18 of our passage. She perceives that her merchandise is good, and her lamp does not go out by night. Also in verse number 24, she makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies sashes for the merchants. These verses, even going all the way back to the Old Testament, paint the picture of the mom who, in a sense, is a stay-at-home mom, but also, in a sense, is a career woman as well. She's busy. She's buying, she's selling, and she's trading. And may actually surprise you that the text here in Proverbs 31 about this ideal woman, this blessed mother, it does not condemn her for working outside of the home. It actually commends her for the work that she's doing to help provide for the family. So for those moms that need to work outside of the home, understand that it's okay. And of course, as long as your children are the number one priority and you're doing everything you're doing because and for your children, then know that God is pleased with the work that you are doing, not only at home, but on the job as well. Not only is the mom, this blessed mother, this vigorous worker, working hard in the home and on the job, but she's even working hard when she shops as well. And I don't know if she clipped coupons or things such as that. But notice verse 13 of the text. She seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it. From her profits, she plants a vineyard. She is a woman who is working hard, and that, of course, is commendable. It seems that she understands the value of the dollar and that she's not just wasting the family livelihood, but she's doing the best that she can to utilize what she's been blessed with in order to provide for her family and in order to be a good steward from what God has blessed her with. In this text, Proverbs 31, as we look at this blessed woman, we understand that she is a valuable wife, that she is a vigorous worker. And third and finally, she is, of course, overall, a virtuous woman. Again, in verse 10, who can find a virtuous wife? Verse number 20, she extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. Verse 25, strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. And verse 26, she opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. Verse 20 describes this virtuous woman as for the compassion that she shows. Verse 25 describes the virtuous woman for the character that she possesses. And verse 26 describes this virtuous woman for the counsel that she gives. This Proverbs 31 woman, of course, could be a great and awesome role model. And by following this example, there will be a life of fulfillment and satisfaction. This Proverbs 31 woman is a valuable wife, a vigorous worker, and a virtuous woman. But as we're seeking application this morning, and as we're trying to figure out some action steps and maybe be up for a challenge or two based upon the example of this wonderful woman, I'd like to direct your attention to the last 4 verses of Proverbs 31. Beginning in verse 28, Proverbs 31 says, her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Why should we praise and give honor to the godly women in our lives? Well, first of all, it's one in which we strengthen and encourage them. I'm sure that everyone, including moms, have temptations all the time that distract them from what is most important, that make them maybe kind of think of some other things that they could be doing besides being the Christian wife and the Christian mom that they are. But when we praise them and thank them and tell them how much we appreciate them, that encourages them, it revitalizes them, and it makes them feel good. But as we praise and honor the godly women in our lives, it not only makes them feel good, but it makes us feel good as well. It feels good to be positive and to say positive things about the great people in our lives. But unfortunately, there's just some folks in the world that cannot say anything positive about anything, about anyone, including the godly women in their life. Some folks, it seems that they just thrive on criticism and complaining and sarcasm and joylessness. And a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, this garbage type stuff, is often directed toward the person who has loved them the most. That would be their mom. And so as we look at the end of the text here, what we need to understand is we need to stop pouting and start praising. We need to feel as if and understand that we would feel better if we share our things that we are thankful for to the ones that have provided them to us. In your bulletin, there is a poem titled, My Blessed Mother. It is written from one of our friends, David Currington, a longtime preacher of the gospel in the Birmingham, Alabama area, a longtime preacher for the Sylvan Springs Church of Christ. Just a bit of the background, David wrote this poem just a few days ago. And he realizes and understands that his mom is on what many of us would call her deathbed. Her final days before departing this earth. And so, of course, David and the family, they're reflecting about their mom and how blessed and how godly of a woman she was and is. And David writes the following: "Never could there be a day to honor friend or mother, or to honor friend or brother, that would compare to this special one when we honor mother. Her sacrifice of tender years to make us, mold us fair, and day by day with special touch to blot out every tear. She showed us how to love and care, tending every need. No pain or want we ever had did she ever fail to heed. Those teenage years she stood right by, not wanting to let go. But even then you knew just how she loved you so. In marriage now this matron stood proudly to our side. The tears of joy and sadness mixed as we took our bride. The grandkids came and godly pride could never rise so high. At least we thought until the great-grands came marching by. Though old and frail, pained and worn, the time is drumming by. With every beat of heart, a thought of family as she lie. And now her voice is silent there, her smile a blessed thought. Each day we will remember the greatest lesson taught. Now we must be a blessing too, a blessing like no other. For we've been touched by God above to have this blessed mother. Over the last week or two, I've had an opportunity to talk some, very limited, to Charlie Martinez. And I've shared with him what I'm going to share with you, and he, of course, is in full support of it. But as you know, Charlie's mom recently passed away. And as Charlie has shared with us several times over the last few years, he didn't necessarily have the best of upbringings in what we would call a Christian home. But shortly after his mom died, Charlie posted the following on his Facebook wall. We may not always have had a life of good memories to remember someone by, but all we really need is one. That one good memory is enough to keep our hearts from remaining broken. Find that one good memory and keep those words or that image in the forefront of our minds. I don't know who you identify with more this morning. That of David Currington and the relationship that he's had with his mom, or that of Charlie and the relationship that he had with his mom. But here's the point. There is something positive that every single one of us can hold on to about our moms. And we do not need to wait until our moms are on their deathbeds or have deceased in order to praise them. So I challenge each and every one of us this morning. For those of you whose moms are still alive, let them know today that you love them and thank them for the positive things that they have done for you. And for those of you whose moms have now passed, hold on to those positive items that you've learned from your mom and do all that you can to share those positive things, those attributes and qualities and characteristics with as many people as possible, including your children, your grandchildren, and everyone else that you have influence as well. And a challenge this morning for the moms. Please know that you do not have to be perfect to be the perfect mom. Your children love you just as you are. Yes, we all are challenged by this ideal, virtuous woman in Proverbs 31. But I challenge all of us to continue doing our very best at loving and providing for our children. I realize that there is no mommy test, but I also realize that you are tested every single day by your children and grandchildren. Dark hair, light hair, or white hair, your children and your grandchildren need you. You're not only bringing them a glass of water, but you are leading them to living water. You are the light of the world, their world right now. But you have the opportunity to lead them to the light of the world for all of eternity. This morning, as we are going to, in a moment, to sing this song of encouragement, we want everyone to be Christians, moms, dads, and everyone else, to be faithful children of God. Jesus did say to those around him in John 8, verse number 12, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. And as Jesus was ministering to that woman on the well in John 4, he says in verse 13, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water, springing up into everlasting life. If we can help you in any way this morning to be a part of the church, to be following this light of the world, Jesus Christ, who is able to provide you living water for all of eternity. If we can help you to become a Christian by putting your faith into Christ, repenting of sins, confessing faith, and being baptized into Christ. Or if we can help you to come back to the Lord by repenting of sin and asking God for forgiveness, will you come forward this morning, right now, while together we stand and sing.